This is number 8 on Schoology. We're going to be talking about whether or not scatter plots have positive, negative, strong, and weak correlations. So the first thing is I want to remind you about Mr. Slopeface. All right, so we have Mr. Slopeface. If the line is going this way, that was a positive slope. If it was going this way, that's a negative slope. And how do I know that? Because from the left, the line goes up, or from the left, the line is going down. Then we have Mr. Slopeface's beautiful nose, and underneath that nose we see that that is undefined. So we see that vertical line is undefined, and we can also remember Vux from this. Then we have our horizontal line, and our horizontal line on Mr. Slopeface, it looks like he has these little cheeks or whatever on the side. That is talking about our horizontal line, and our horizontal line is Hoi. Hoi has a 0 slope. So that might help you with this first part, most specifically up here, the part that we can see if Mr. Slopeface was wearing a mask, just his eyes. Okay, so we're looking for positive or negative. And you can see from here, whenever the dots are kind of going this way, that is a positive correlation. Whenever the dots go this way, that's a negative correlation. And if they're just kind of spread out all over the place and we can't decide whether they're kind of aiming up or whether they're aiming down, that's going to be no correlation. Okay? And then it says in our notes more specifically, now we're talking about the strength. Okay? So how close to that line of best fit would they be? And to be a little bit more precise, I can change that first one because that wasn't a very precise line. The line of best fit tries to go through the center of the dots as best as it can while staying straight. Going through like the middle, trying to be as close to everything as it can. So right here on our, where it says more specifically, it's saying that it is a positive slope because it is going up. But now look at those dots. Strong means that they are very close to that line. And comparing it to another positive graph, this one also has a positive slope, but these dots are more spread out. They're a little bit further away from the line. So the closer that they are to the line, we're going to call that strong. And as they start to spread out, that becomes weak. Okay? And then if they spread out far enough, then it becomes no correlation. We're going to see the same things as we look at negative scatter plots. So we're looking at negative. How do I know it's negative? Because from the left it's going, ooh, that is not a line of best fit. The line of best fit tries to go through the center. That's a little bit better. And again, this one is also negative, and I can tell because the dots starting at the left are kind of going down to the right. Okay? So that is a negative correlation. Now again, how do we know if it's strong or weak? Strong is going to be super close to that line. And weak is going to be where our dots start to spread out and get away from that line. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take the notes that we just talked about and you're going to do a matching activity. And I'm going to start you off by giving you one example, and then you're going to have to do the rest on your own. So I'm going to start off by doing this one at the top. And I would like to start off by noticing that from the left the dots are going down. So that's going to be, my finger is too thick right here. There we go. So they start going down. So what I'm looking for, these say positive. I'm not looking for positive. I'm looking for negative. So I'm looking for these over here. So I'm looking for maybe one of these. And then I have to decide, is this very strong because they're very close to my line? They're close to each other. Is this very weak because they're spreading out? Or is it, and this one says perfect. Is it a perfect line? Is it exactly in one line? Okay, well this one's not perfect, so I know that that's not it. It's not going to be perfect, and they are pretty close, so I'm going to call that strong. So I'm going to take this strong negative correlation, I'm going to drag it next to the first one on the list. You are going to finish slide 8 on your own, and the next slide is going to talk about R values, so I'm going to touch on those very briefly. When you have a strong correlation, your R values are going to be very close to 1. So your R values are going to be very close to 1, like maybe from like 0.7 all the way up to a 1. And you can also go in the negative direction. That would be positive. So your positive slope would look like this on your line. But if your line comes over here, it would be like a negative 0.7 to a negative 1. Those are very strong numbers. And you can think in terms of, you guys are pretty good with money, changing that to like 70 cents. 70 cents is pretty close to $1. It's getting closer to $1 than it is having nothing. And then if we want weak numbers, your weak numbers are going to have R values, and I'll tell you as we actually have to find an R value where that would be. R values that are very weak are going to be further away, closer to 0. So examples of weak R values would be like maybe 0.4 or 0.3 or 0.47 or 0.3, ooh, I had an extra decimal, 0.31, those kinds of things. And they could also be negative, which just means that the line looks like these over here. If the R value is positive, it's going to look like a positive slope line. If the R value is negative, it's going to look like a negative sloped line. And that was Schoology 8. That question should also